We are up to the Nedarim Daf Vav Amar Aleph, and just to give a quick summary of what we learned so far in the Mishnah, we had a machlekes Beisham and Beis Hillel in an instance where you saw a group of people standing and eating your figs, and you made a neder, and you said that all of you are forbidden to have my figs, and you then realize that your father or your brother is there, so you change around. You said everybody else except my father. According to Beis Shammai, your father therefore is permitted, but everyone else still is asur. According to Beis Hillel, everyone is mutter right now. Now, what exactly is the crux of the argument? We don't know, but we do. The Gemara brings an argument Rabbi Kiva Chachamim, where they argue on the general principle that if you make a vow, and part of the vow made up of components, or is like one vow. So if the part of the vow becomes dissolved, what happens to the rest of the vow? So we had a story where somebody made a neder, he won't eat meat or wine, and forever. And then you just said to him, what about the fact that it's Shabbos and Yom Tov? And would you have made the neder? And he says no. So according to Chachamim, so therefore Shabbos and Yom Tov he can eat wine, and he can eat meat and drink wine, but the rest of the week he can't. The neder still remains intact. And he says no. Neder shehuter miktsasa huter kula. So Rabbi came along and explained that the argument of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is exactly is the same argument as Kiva Chacham, and he says as follows: where if he would have started out saying kulchem, all of you are forbidden, and then when he finds out that his father's there, he says again kulchem, you're forbidden, chutz ma'avi, except my father. So therefore, what he's not really changing his neder at all. He's just letting us know that from the outset, he never intended his father to be included. So therefore, everyone is made in that case that the father is mutter, everybody else is us. Nothing changed, nothing was dissolved. But if he said kulchem, and then when he found that his father's there, he changes the format of the neder and he says, you're forbidden, and you're forbidden, you're forbidden, and my father is mutter. Here, what he's trying to say is that my original neder was wrong. So when I said kulchem, my father was included, and that's disrespectful until I had to go define that the Kuchen doesn't refer to my father. So therefore, he showed us it's an error in his whole neder, an error in the words that he used, and therefore he dissolved part of the neder. And by dissolving part of the neder, entire neder is dissolved according to Beis Hillel, and according to Beis Shammai, no, he doesn't believe in the principle of neder. He holds like a Chachamim. That's how Rabbi learned it. Comes along, Rabbi says, no, everyone agrees. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel all agree like Rabbi Kiva that neder shehuda miktsasa huta kula. But according to Rava says, the argument is something totally different. In other words, if he would have changed his words and said from kulchem he changed lazeh, everyone, even Beis Shammai, would agree that since it's mutter for his father, it's mutter for everybody, because you change your neder, so you dissolve part of your neder, because initially kulchem actually did include your father. You're changing the words now, so therefore, and you don't want to show any disrespect to your father, so that's why you're changing your words. So therefore, everyone agrees. Beis Shammai is still that neder huta miktsasa huta kula. Their argument is. In the case where Rabbi said everybody agrees. They're arguing where he said kulchem initially, he said kulchem again, chutz ma'abba. And they're arguing a different machlekes altogether, and that is between Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi, when a person says two things which seem to be a little bit contradictory. We say tfais lo tradition or avigmar dvarot in itfis. So Rabbi Shammai holds like Rabbi that you only look at the first words that you said, and the first word you said was kulchem, and you said that again kulchem. So therefore, Rabbi Shammai says he maintained the same neder. Your father is never included, everyone else remains asur. Beis Hillel says, no, we'll focus on the last words. And the last words were that my father's mutter, which you didn't say before. So you're changing it all around. So okay, that's where we're up to. Papa comes along and asks Abaye a question. It says in that very Mishnah, which we just started out before about Rabbi Kiva, about Shabbos and Yom Tov, the Mishnah there continues. This is later on the Samachs. Rabbi Kiva said, what is an example of a neder shehuda miktsasa huta kula? After he initiated this new rule, he established a new rule. He said, let me give you some examples. He says 3 cases here. Case number 1, we'll call this the Reisha. Koinim, I will asa this bread like a korban, she'eini nene lekulchem, that I will not have any hana from any of you. Okay, that's what he said. He said, kulchem, all of you are forbidden to me. And then, huter echemen, he said something else which allowed one of them maybe turned out to be his father. That, for you, I'm all right to have an from. Huter kulam. They're all become mutter. Now, we don't know exactly what happened in this case. We're going to depend if obviously if we learn like Rabba, we learn like Rabba. We'll soon see. So that's called Reisha. Next case. She'eini nene lazeh u lazeh. In Chatchila nominated, he didn't say kulchem, he nominated which people he want to have an from. And then, huter hadishin, if one person, right now we're understanding means the first person became mutter, then huter kulam, they all become mutter. That's case number 2. And initially the Gemara is going to call that also Reisha, 2 parts of the Reisha. Case number 3, he said something changed it, then he said something else. And in this case, Hutter Achen, the last person, was Mutter. Then Achen Mutter only affects the last person, but the coolness on everybody else is also. That's case number 3. That's called the Sefer. Now, let's understand what was going on here. So in the Reisha, we say that they all become Mutter. Then the next case is that only the in the next case is again. The first person came mutter, all the mutter. It's the last case that only the last person mutter, everybody else remains us. What's going on here? It all makes sense according to Rabbi Muki Reisha. He says that Reisha is talking about the Amal Azeh. The Reisha is talking about you said first Kulchem, and then you changed it to not this Rabbi Kiva talking. So it can't be the Chacham. So first you said Kulchem, and then you change it, you said lazeh or lazeh, and because you changed it around, which means you're saying kulchem actually includes everybody. So I'm going to I'm going to recalibrate everything, and I'm going to start a new lashon, lazeh, lazeh, and therefore your matzah part of your neder, and neder shehuta mitzvah, shehuta bekulah. The next case is talking about the other way around. You started out saying lazeh, lazeh, and then the Sefer Dam L'Kulchem. Sefer means the next case, which is the middle case, which we're going to call the Sefer of the Reisha. The Sefer the Amal L'Kulchem. He started out saying Lazeh v'Lazeh, and then he changed it to L'Kulchem. Again, why did he change it? Because there's a problem with Lazeh Lazeh. What do you mean was a problem? L'Chay Lazeh Lazeh, you nominate each person, so you didn't nominate your father. So what's the problem? Why didn't you remain that way? Because in Lazeh Lazeh, when people start hearing this guy, there's 20 people, this guy's us, this guy's us, we don't know who you're going to ask until you finish. So till the 20th person, maybe you're still going to ask your father. So there's still a time, according to this reasoning, there's still a time period that people might think that you're going to ask your father as well. You don't even want that to happen. And you think that's much worse because it takes a lot longer. So therefore, you're going to say, I'd rather say, Kulchem, okay, talked it for a second, you think of my father, but straight away I fix it up. If I say, Lazeh, 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 you don't know anything until I finish. There might be 30 people there, it'll take them a couple of minutes. So therefore, the fact that you changed both cases, the first 2 cases of this Mishnah, you changed for whatever reason you said. The first case you originally said Kulchem, and then you changed Lazeh. So you changed from a Rabbim to a Prat. And the second case is all the way around. You started with Lazeh, and then you changed to Kulchem. But both the cases, because you changed, it's a neder huta miktsasa. Says Rabbi Kiva, that's the paradigm of a neder huta huta kulin. Elam and the last case is talking about you didn't change anything. Whatever you started out, you finished off. Therefore, the last person is us, everyone else is mutter. Makes sense. You rub how you can learn pshat. The Reisha, where we say that he says like kulchem, and we say that what? That everyone is mutter. Mukunla, you'll say the amal kulchem. He started out saying kulchem, and he finished kulchem chutz ma'aba, and therefore it's as he says mar dvar of adam mitzvahs. If you look at the last word, the fact is you change, you added chutz ma'aba, had to neder huta miktsasa huta kulus. That's case number 1. Ela sefer the amal lazeh, but the next case, the middle case, where you said lazeh, and you're talking about you're maintaining it. That's according to you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be only Rabbi Kiva, because everyone agrees. So it's Rabbi Kiva. If you're talking about your Rabbi Kiva, you're saying is only if you're maintaining it. If you say lazeh, then am I pleading about? Why would the Rabbanan argue with him? You say if you said lazeh, and you finish off lazeh. So why would the Rabbanan say that no, that only part of them motor? Everyone is motor. You said zelazeh. You said it again. Zelazeh. You didn't say zelazeh. So who holds that you're chai? You just left out your father. Everyone holds that this is a case of what do you call it? That a neder hu mitzvah who the kula. It's all mutter. So what's going on over here? Rabbi Kiva, am I pleading Rabbanan? Why the Rabbanan? You said David Hakam mutter. You said that everyone holds mutter. Sorry, the sefer when you said lazeh, can't be talking about. You're talking about that you're saying the same thing. You started saying lazeh, you said again lazeh. Then what's the chiddush? You already told us the rule. The sefer obviously means you change. You started out saying kulchem, and now you said lazeh. Everyone holds. You said before. Everyone holds that if you change, it means you're saying whatever I said before was a mistake. So I'm dissolving part of it. I'm taking my father out. That's a case of neder hu mitzvah, and everyone agrees to that. So in the case, according to Rabbah, both cases are talking about exactly the same thing. That is that you change. But the first case was you changed from a kulchem to a zelazeh, and the second case was you saying from zelazeh to kulchem. So there's a chiddush in each one. Then you know kat or prat that both of them are the same thing. But according to Rabbah, that there's no machlekes by Misham. Everyone agrees it comes from Misham. Case number 1 is where you're saying the same thing. If you're saying the same thing, what's the point of telling us the same case? If let's say the same thing, It's the same din. You're not telling us anything new. Obviously, in the second case, you're Mashana. You're changing. Everyone agrees that mutter for everybody. It's not just Rabbi Kiva. Amalei Rabba says Rabba. Ula Rabba and according to Rabba. According to Rabba Kiva Menicha, you answered, even if according to Rabba, you explained the first two cases. What about case number 3? Case number 3 was that the Achrein is mutter. Sorry, the Achrein is mutter, everybody else is us. That's case number 3. How are you going to explain that? The my mukama. How are you going to learn that one? The Amal Kulchem, if he says what? If he said what? That he said the Kulchem and he sticks to the same story. Okay, the Kulchem is, tell me a question. Let me ask a question. So let's say he said first Kulchem. So it says that it's the first person or the last person. How can it be a first and last? He said Kulchem. Kulchem can only, it said first and last can only work as a zeh. The way you learn in Pshat here, you start out Kulchem. So where's the Rishon and Achron? Kulchem, Haydin hu Rishon, Haydin hu Achron. Ella, you misunderstand the whole mission here. It's talking about a case here Ella is talking about a case here that when he says Rishon Achron is, he says the first person is Asa, then he says the second person is Asa because the first person, you linked every person to the person before. That's why if you matter the first one, then automatically everything else becomes mutter. If you matter the last one, the other ones are not linked to the last one. The last one is mutter and the rest are Asa. Ella Reisha, the Reisha talking about the Amal Lekulchem. He said Lekulchem. According to everybody, me, Rabba, the Reisha, we learn the same way. He said Lekulchem. The Sefer, and the Sefer is talking about, Sefer means here the middle case, and the third case. Shetolon Zebazeh. You made each person hinge on the person before them. But Amar, he said, Ploini Kiplaini, Uplaini Kiplaini. That's how you work through the whole list. They and there it is. The very first case in the thing, it's the second and third are actually bunched together. We bunched the second and first case together, according to Rabbi. No, the second and third are bunched together. The first case is talking about, well, that's the machlekes Rabbi Rabbi. Where they're talking about Mishana. The first case was we said that it's mutter for everybody. So according to Rabbi, when is mutter for everybody? If you are Mishana your words, if you're Mishana your words, that means you're matam miktsasa, matam kula. According to Rabbi, when do we say that according to everybody's mutter? If you he's stuck. If you okay. According to Rabbi, it's talking about a case where you were minded, where you kept sorry, according to Rabbi, it's talking about you Mishana your words. We're trying to say why it's according to Rabbi Kiva. So according to Rabbi, it's talking about you changed your words. Because you changed your words, you were matam miktsasa, according to Rabbi. Right? So you said before Kulchem, now you said Zeh Zeh. By saying Zeh Zeh, you're saying what I said Kulchem was wrong because I include my father, I'm changing my words. And you're matam miktsasa. Well, matam miktsasa, matam kulchem Rabbi Kiva. So that's what Rabbi Kiva is being proved himself. According to Rabbi, no, it's talking about your mind. You stuck. He said Kulchem the first time. He said Kulchem the second time, and then Chutz Ma'aba. And therefore, it's machlekes again. What's a machlekes? Whether you go after the first word you said, if you go after the first word, well, you stuck to the same words, and therefore there's no head to there at all. And according to Rabbi Kiva and Basil, you look at the second words and you said Chutz Ma'aba, so that's a change. Heter Mitzvah we call it. That's what Kiva is bringing right to himself. Case number 2, case number 3 has nothing to do with Heter we call it. He's talking about where you will link one with the next. So if it's the first person, then the rest are all mutter as well. And if it's the last person, whichever way you learn. In other words, whatever we learned in the first case continues the second and third case. But what changes in the second and third case is you link the rest of the people to the first one. And therefore, Akiva is saying, I who already established that what happens in a case where you link everybody together? So if it's the first person that you made chutzim, let's say Abba happened to be the first person, then everyone else becomes chutzim. If Abba is the last person, then the only last person is because nobody else is linked to it. Because the last person, it's like a bunch of Nedarim. Each neder is considered a separate neder. It's not one neder, because you said neder. When you say zeh kazeh, that's like a new neder. So if it's the last person, it's not neder shehuta miktsasa huta kula. It's a full neder was mutter. That one weren't touched. Okay, let's continue. That's a question. I'll ask you a question. What happens if a guy says, very simple, I answered this bread is like a carbon if I ever eat an onion again. We look at the Gemara as botzel has good things, bad things. Onions are bad for your heart. Amr told him, but there's one species of onions that's actually very good for you. Alei kufri. Yafal alei. Kufri is good for the heart. Did you know that? So he said, I didn't realize I would never included it. So huta bekufri, he's muta in the kufri. The loy bekufri huta bechalab tzol. And it's a neder shehuta miktasai huta bekulay. Ma'isa. And now there was a story. Now, remember, if we're talking about that, it's talking about, remember, according to Rabbi, the Machlekes B'Sham, it says only if you stick to the same neder. If you change the neder, everyone agrees, Huta B'Ktasei, Huta B'Kulei. So, and we can see that we're going to make it totally the Machlekes. So, therefore, if talking about it's the same neder, we're going to be talking about a case that you say, okay, I'll say it again. All the say, this is us to me, if I ever eat an onion again, chutz from the onions of kuf. There's Ma'isa Hayah, there's a story, and therefore only according to Rabbi Akiva do we say that that all the onions are mutter. Ma'isa Hayah, we treated Rabbi Meir because Rabbi Meir allowed all the onions. We got a problem. Your whole vote of Rabbi is why it's mutter is because you look at the last words that he says, and the last words change what he said in the beginning. First he said all onions, which include kufri, and then you say no kufri, and you're saying that we left the last words, which is the opinion of Rabbi Yasi. And that's why it's a neder shutuvik. That's the view of Rabbi Akiva. And now you come and now you're telling me it says right here that Rabbi Meir is the one who says it. And L'cheda Meir B'Sham had the same opinion. My lab, the Omar, he said, Ilu hayisi yedei shakufri yofalev hayisi yedei mekolab se'os. L'cheda, it's according to Rabbi, it's talking about the same thing. You maintain your same original, your original neder. The kufri mutter, you just change your kufri mutter. And according to Rabbi Meir, if you focus on the first words, according to you, Rabbi, it's the same neder, and therefore the din should be that the butts of kufri you never included in the first place. So that should be mutter. Everything else should be asr. What's going on over here? Say, like, no. But no, it's talking about he changed. Who told you that the second neder was exactly the same as the first? He changed it. But anybody said, Ilu isi de shakufri yavalev, he said, I would change the whole neder. Parts of plenty asurin, and the kufri mutter, I would have changed the whole neder. No, and Rameya, just because Beishamai holds like Rameya, the way I explained it, doesn't mean Rameya holds like Beishamai. Beishamai Rameya, you look at the first words. Doesn't mean Rameya holds like Beishamai. That in this case, you look at the first words, because when does Rameya say you look at the first words? When the second words and the first words conflict with each other. First word I said was Tumuras Oile. The second word I said Tumuras Shlamim. You cannot be a Shlamim and Oile. It's mutually exclusive. So where there's a contradiction, Rameya said you got the first words. Here they're not mutually exclusive. You can say I never intended to include the onion of Kufri. I never intended to include my father. So it's not really sizing each other. You're explaining yourself. So Rameya in this case might actually not agree with Shammai. He would say, I'm personally the advocate of you look at the first words. In this case, I would say, listen to everything he has to say. Because the person can't say everything in one go. So he has to start out one thing and then he has to explain himself. So Rameya himself would hold that this is considered, and maybe look at the last words. And if we look at the last words, there's a
you don't even have to change the lashon to say what's a plenty. You could still keep because you're looking at the last words.
True, but we're saying over here, if we're saying that we're going to try to look at how the May works out in halacha. So you're saying over here is what was it? So the Gemara is trying to say now that even if you're going to argue that Meir holds like Rabbi Shammai, what I just told you is what the Gemara could have said. The Gemara didn't say that Meir doesn't agree with Rabbi Shammai. The Gemara could have said exactly what I just told you. This is what all the Shayim say. And they actually wonder why anyone didn't say that. The Gemara said, let's continue your thought. The Meir and Rabbi Shammai are saying the same thing. But here we're talking about a case that we're talking about a case that he was Mishana. He started out that he pushes Mishana. So forget Big Mardvada, which your mother could have answered. But instead, he just said, who told you that he answered back the same words? He changed his words. Now, if he changes words, remember, if you change your words, according to everyone agrees. If you change your words, according to Rabbi, if you change your words, that's what the Beis Hillel says. B'Shamai argues. They're arguing the principle of Neder Huta Miktsasa. So therefore, we change his words. Is Rameir a liba de Rabbi Akiva? According to Rabbi, Rameir follows Rabbi Akiva. That if you change your words, Neder Huta Miktsasa Huta Kula, but not according to Beis Shammai. Because Beis Shammai holds, no, we don't believe in that principle. But according to Rava, it could even be a liba de Rabbanon. According to Rava, Mishana, the words, everyone agrees. Neder Shehut Mitzvah Kulei. Ravina asks a question. It says, also says, yes, neder, there is a neder, shemiktase, mutter, miktase. Also, you have a situation, neder, you made one neder, and then afterwards you recanted part of it. So what we say, or you amended part of it, we say part of the neder is mutter and part is us. Kate said, what's an example? No, we don't say neder, shehuta, miktase, huta, kula, we say whatever is mutter, the rest is us. What's the example? Nada minakak kola, you made a neder, you're abstaining from this basket of fruits. I will ask this bread if I eat the basket of fruits. But and over there was these figs that were called b'nai shuach, which are something special. They're not the ordinary mundane figs. But Amar, said, if I would have known that this wasn't there, I would never have made the ned in the first place. I would have changed it. So the din is hakakola in other words, we don't believe in the principle of neder shehuta miktasa huta bekulai. It's what I excise from the neder that is remains mutter, the rest is us. Ad Shabbat Rabbi Akiva says no. The limit neder shehuta miktasa huta bekulai. There's also an example of a case where the neder partially was permitted, then the rest is mutter. My love, what are we talking about here? The Amari said. What happened? He said, he would have changed, amended his whole neder. He would have amended his whole neder. Now you Rava said if you amend your neder, everyone agrees that neder shehuta mitzvah shehuta kula. And here it says clearly it's only according to Rabbi Akiva who said that. Rabbi Akiva will plead it upon. So again, the Rabbi said very simply, why no? But who said he changed, amended the neder? He would have maintained the same neder. But in that case, he maintained the same neder, and in that case, the same neder. What do you call it? Rabbi Akiva is one who holds you go after Gemar Dvorov, and therefore it's considered neder shehuta mitzvah. But Achon say, look at Chil Dvorov, the same neder, nothing changed, and Moshe never included in the first place. So there's no huta mitzvah, and therefore. It does not become, the rest remain also, the neder remains intact, and the will never include in the first place. Therefore, it's not the neder was mutter, it was never included in the first place. It's only Rabbi Akiva who says, B'gemar dvar of mitzvahs, you look at the last words, and that's a change. And therefore, huta mikvasa. That's what's going on. Says the Gemara, Man Tana Laha, who's also the following brayse? In front of we learned. Nodar mechamisha b'nei adam. He made a neder from 5 people. I don't have any benefit from 5 people. He said them all together. I don't have any benefit from five people. And then he said, hutel echmen, hutel kulam. If he made one mutter, they all become mutter. Chutz me echmen. If he said, however, if he said chutz me echmen, that I am gonna, that the 5 are still that these people are forbidden to me, except one of them, who mutter v'hein asur. So it's just 2 dinim here. One din is he says 5 people are asur, and then if something happened and one of them become mutter, I don't know yet the details, then they all become mutter. No, there's neder shehuta miktsasa huta kula. And then he says, if it's chutz me'echmen, only that person is mutter and the rest of us. What's going on? So Gemara says very simply. Oh, that's what I'm going to say. So because I don't spell it out. So it depends, Rabba or Rabba. If it's the Rabba, I will say Reish is Rabbi Akiva. The Reish is Rabbi Akiva, whereas he says if he's matted to one of them, no, but he changed. He changed, which means he made a heted. Well, only one who holds that hutel echma hutel kul Rabbi Akiva. Because the Chacham hold, which is the Shammai, they say no. Hutel ech and lo hutel kul. But and the second case is it says chutz me'echem, that you didn't change. You stuck to your same thing. He says kulchem chutz me'echad is safe according to Rabbah. That's the hakel. Everyone agrees. If you didn't change, then the echad man was never included in the first place. Let's say his father was never included in the first place, and the rest nothing changed. If we learn like Rava, then safe is the Rabban. Rava, if nothing changed, Rava says that's the machlekes. You look at the first words or the last words, and you're telling me that only he's mutter, the rest is also. Obviously, you only look at the first words because we say the first words, nothing changed. That's the Rabbanim. But Vereisha, when he changes words, divrei hakel, because according to Rava, there's no machlekes that neder huta mitzvah huta b'kol. Interesting that we all the Rishonim paskin like Rabbah, not like Rava. Even though we have a rule, halachic k'basroi, we pass it like Rabbah's teacher, and Nedarim were machna.